Thanks so much. I think we as the students would like to thank you for this insightful presentation. It was an eye-opener to us, and we really felt challenged to take action. I do believe this was a call to all of us to collectively act to try and mitigate the challenge of climate change and heat rise or increase. So we as the youth felt so much challenged that we really need to take action. We need to act in all the spheres of society. We should be found advocating for justice, advocating for policies that aim to reduce this challenge. As you may know, Chinua Achebe, when he was writing, once said, "These are the young suckers that will grow when the old banana dies." So we do believe that we really need to take these issues seriously. We need to strengthen research, particularly from our local university. We need to strengthen research so that we come up with policies that directly address the challenge or in question. We also need, as the youth, to be involved in all actions that are taken. We should be involved in stakeholder engagement and all the other actions that aim to address the challenge or the problem of climate change. So that's what we can say. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Fortune, for that. I'm really confident that you are a leader, because a leader who gives a speech without quoting is not a leader. Dr. Carlos Chinua Achebe is an African writer. I'm sure you are aware of him. He has got a beautiful history in terms of writing. So that's why our leader, Fortune Goto, he made a quote of Chinua Achebe. So thank you for that one, Fortune. You are a leader indeed. Allow me to invite our guest, Dr. Carlos. I know Dr. Carlos, he gave me a certain name that I will not ask him to mention here. So, Dr. Carlos, you are welcome.
Yes, well, la verdad, honestly, excellent your work, my dear friend Meg from Zimbabwe. I tried to enter a little bit before, because there were some comments regarding the reasons to have data. And I want to be clear here, because as I mentioned to you early on, if there is a place in which, a sector in which data is prevalent today in the planet, is on the area of climate change and extreme heat. This data, this enormously amount of data, basically data produced by the United States. I must say that today there is a central place in the world that looks at the question of climate emergency. I don't like to use the name climate change anymore. We are in a climate emergency. It's not any longer climate change, climate emergency. The United States today fills almost 40% of the positions of researchers, members at the IPCC, the Intergovernment Panel, Scientific Panel of Climate Change. But also, the United States have the largest amount of scientific institutions that are researching and producing data on extreme heat in the world. And now, the United States have a corporate government that denies that data and says that climate change doesn't exist. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, and why we are trying to do this month of action? Because corporate governance, or the government of business, because Mr. Trump represents business. He's not a politician, although he's a politician, but he represents business. I'm a doctor, I'm a physician, for instance, and there is enormous data that shows the impact of smoking, cigarette smoking on health. If you smoke, you will get old early on, you will be an early elderly, you will get 250 diseases, you may die very young. So cigarette, tobacco smoking causes you enormous damage. Now, science has demonstrated that in the last 40 years, the first country that have legislation to help people to stop smoking, because smoking was a promotion of business that made you, after the Second World War, that any human being in the world should smoke. And they put that in the 50s, 60s, the prevalence of smoking in the world was terrible. And the United States established legislation say, don't smoke any longer. The companies that sell cigarettes near schools, the companies that say that cigarette smoking is good for your health, because you must say that many advertising say at those times that if you smoke, you feel healthy, you feel younger, you'll be better good looking. So there was liars trying to sell cigarettes. And many of these companies commercialize cigarettes near schools. In Africa, that is happening today. I see in Nigeria, in Lagos, I saw that in Johannesburg, in South Africa. Each time that I go to Africa, I see how the companies are still selling cigarettes. But cigarette cause enormous damage, exactly the same than fossil industry is causing to the world, because this climate change has to do with plastic, with fossil fuels use for industry. So today, Mr. Trump is representing the corporate business of those companies that produce climate change. So it would be the same that if we put, in order that you people from Zimbabwe will understand, it would be the same that if the next Minister of Health of Zimbabwe is the CEO, the president of the tobacco industry, Philip Morris. Would you think that the health of people from Zimbabwe would be the same if the Minister of Health, instead of being a doctor, is the CEO, is the president of Philip Morris? You would say no. You immediately say no. And that is happening. The country that most data produces, more scientific data produces, the country that supported scientific institutions to discuss climate change, climate emergency, and extreme heat is the United States. The United States today is being chaired, is presided by Mr. Trump, who say that climate change doesn't exist. So we are facing globally a big problem, because many people will get confused about this signal. So that is what we need to think, and that is why we need to act quickly as communities to get our own data. So no president, no CEO of any industry will come to our home, knock the door and say, don't take the temperature at your home any longer. Because if you don't take the temperature at your home, you will not know how to protect your just born baby to die due to extreme heat. You will not be able to what to do to protect your granddad that is diabetic and he can die because exposed to extreme heat at your home. You know what I mean, Meg? I want this to be clear. I'm not talking about the role of institutions. I'm talking the role of human beings. I'm talking about not Meg Sibanda as director of the Demands of Action. I'm talking to Meg Sibanda as father of a family. I'm talking to the people who is listening to us as member of a family. I'm talking to the workers that are listening to us. In order they should organize to take the temperatures at their homes, at their workplace. I'm talking to the students that they cannot enter to a room in a school that don't have a thermometer because they will be exposed to a danger, to a lethal problem if temperature is not being located in our eyes, in our vision, in our radar. We cannot act. Human beings act when they have the information. If they don't have the information, human cannot act. And that is important that you have the information, not big technology. Individuals, families, workers should not use big technology. Of course, local governments should use big technology because they have other responsibilities, but we as human beings need to have a thermometer, which is not a big technology. It's a very cheap technology. It's a very simple way to measure temperature and protect our life for the times that are coming of climate emergency, of extreme heat. I want to insist in that because as local citizens, we need to act in our own constituency, which is our home, our workplace, our school, in order to act and protect ourselves in solidarity. Because I'm telling you one thing, I don't know in Africa what the situation is, what is in Zimbabwe, but here in Buenos Aires, one of the most vulnerable groups to extreme heat are elderly people, are old people. Most of these elderly people today in Occident, in the Western world, live by themselves. They live alone. Their families live, their children, their daughters, their boys live in other places. And these people live alone and they don't have information. They are not being seen even by their neighborhoods, and they die as a consequence of the look. In the year 2003, Europe, the European Union, had a heat wave that killed in 3 days almost 135,000 people in its 25 countries. From these 133 people, 90% of the people that died were elderly people due to extreme heat. And more than 70% of those elderly people were people living alone. People that die at their home at night, and they stay dead for few days until they were detected by the neighborhood that they were, they didn't appear and enter their home, and they've, confronted with a person dead. They were not visited by their children, by their sons, by their daughters. These elderly people really are extreme heat. So whenever, it's an action plan of community, we need to use solidarity. In Bulayo, if you know of people, all people that live alone, each time there is a heat wave, go every day, see if they are well hydrated, talk to them, protect them, because extreme heat is killing elderly people, even in your own city, and no one is looking at it. And it is a very sad situation. So we cannot let the CEO, the president of Philip Morris, to be Minister of Health in Zimbabwe and in no country of the world. And we cannot accept a corporate representative tell us that climate change, extreme heat, extreme climate emergency, extreme heat doesn't exist. So that's what we need to prepare ourselves as communities. It's very urgent that we prepare ourselves as community in order to know the temperature in our homes, in our workplace, our schools, and to prepare ourselves for the medium and long term, having 3 trees in our home, near our school, near our workplace, having 30% with green presence in our homes, in our apartment, in our schools, in our workplace, and having a park 300 meters away, because the presence of the 300 will protect our workplace, our schools, and our home. That is number one position. And the last 5 minutes that I have, I want to use is to indicate to the people that is listening to us in Bulario that one thing is to act locally to protect our people. But here we have people that are telling us that climate change doesn't exist. And that puts a responsibility to global governance. I would have liked that Mr. Guterres, Secretary General of the UN, should have come out rapidly and tell, no, Mr. Trump, President of the United States, is wrong. He cannot say that science is mistaken. He cannot say that climate change is a lie. Mr. Trump is saying a lie, because that a big country like the United States is saying that will confuse the whole world, and many people will die. And many people will die in the Southern Hemisphere countries, because the United Nations is not acting upon the problem of extreme heat. So, as Mr. Guterres hasn't spoken to stop the lie of Mr. Trump that climate change doesn't exist, or the lie of Mr. Milei that climate change doesn't exist, we need to act as citizens, because the United Nations is a place for we, the people of the world. The United Nations are not only governments. The United Nations was created to represent us as community, as citizens. Unfortunately, the original concept of the United Nations to be the space of we, the people of the world, governments and citizens of the nation, of the nations member of the United Nations, were, close to the opinion of citizens. Myself, I worked with Mr. Kofi Annan, an African Secretary General of the United Nations. I worked 5 years with him, and he told me, Carlos, the United Nations is the place for we, the people of the world. Here we need to have not only governments representing nations, but we need to have here citizens. We need to hear all voices. So he supported the idea to celebrate each time there was a conference of parties or a general assembly or a world assembly of anything, racism, gender, aging, there was global assemblies. Not only governments should be invited to participate at this conference, but also community organizations should be invited to participate at these conferences, because all voices should be heard. And we put in place a tool for civil society, community organization, grassroots community organizations to debate in a parallel manner to the government conference. So we set up this NGO parallel forum or civil society parallel forums. I was member of the Sangoko organization in South Africa when the United Nations organized the World Conference Against Racism in Durban, 2001. That was one important place for the NGO parallel forum, in which civil society organizations and citizens from the whole world were invited to Durban to have this parallel forum, and they adopted the plan of action of civil society against racism. When I talk civil society, I mean not only the big organizations that can attend to these places because they have a lot of money, such as Amnesty International or Greenpeace or the Laudato Si movement. I mean grassroots organization. I mean the group of elderly people that works in a neighborhood in Bulayo, or the organization of students that work in the University of Bulayo, or the children's organization of any area of Bulayo that is protecting their health. This grassroots organization that knows the problem, these organizations are the ones that should have a voice at the Conference of Parties of Climate Change, at the General Assembly of the United Nations, at the World Conference. Not only the big NGOs such as, Greenpeace or Amnesty. These small organizations should be invited to these global gatherings of UN, and even more, the UN should pay the traveling of these people. When we organize the conference against the NGO Parallel Forum in the Conference Against Racism, the World Conference on Racism in Durban, ECOSOC from the UN pay 40% of the delegates of the poorer countries of the Global South to attend the conference in Durban. The United Nations pay those small organizations that have no money, but they work and they know a lot, much more than Greenpeace or Amnesty International, about the needs of the local people. These are the voices that we should hear at these global conferences. And then I have the experience with the World Conference on Aging in Madrid, and we again organized an NGO Parallel Forum, and we adopted in Madrid, with more than 7,000 delegates from grassroots organizations in Madrid, the Plan of Action on Aging, as we did prepare the Plan of Action on Racism in Durban, with the participation of the grassroots organization, not only the big ones. So we are proposing now to the government of Brazil in November at the Conference of Parties of Climate Change to organize an NGO Parallel Forum of Climate Change, in which we want to invite local organizations from Zimbabwe and from other countries of the world, but local grassroots communities, that with the idea that they made their voices heard and they help us to adopt a plan of action on heat. Because the COP30 in Belém, my dear Meg, should have a plan of action on extreme heat, which is the main problem that we in countries of the Southern Hemisphere and in the southern countries of the Northern Hemisphere have, because we have no plans to confront heat. So this is the final component of this month of action. As we ask the local citizens to contain, to prevent the damage of extreme heat at their homes, at their workplace, at their schools, we are now inviting them to accompany us in these global meetings in the Conference of Parties of Climate Change to take place in November this year. We will try to make possible for local grass community organizations in Bulayo, in Zimbabwe, to participate with the delegate at the Belém conference in Brazil. So, if we act as local citizens against extreme heat in Bulayo, thanks to your very good work, my dear friend Mexi Banda, we also ask people from Bulayo attending this meeting in Zimbabwe of the Month of Action, that you also prepare yourself to act at global level, because the decision that we take at global level should have the voice to tell those deniers of science that their denial of the impact of extreme heat and climate emergency that is costing human life, animal life, and vegetable life to the future of our planet, that they are not fit to continue lying to the world, that we as communities have learned how to face this lie. So this is the second component, dear Meg, that we should act in front of extreme heat, as local citizens protecting our family, but also we need to act as global citizens protecting our children, our future human pairs for the next century. Many thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Carlos, for raising the curtain down. I think this has been a very fruitful engagement together with our local stakeholder elders, our university students, and also our partners from local organizations here in Zimbabwe, Lupane city. I'm very humbled, Dr. Carlos, to hear you inviting the civil society in Zimbabwe, or inviting us in Zimbabwe to take part in the ongoing processes of global governance, especially planning towards the COP30, which is in Brazil. Really, Dr. Carlos, I think as Zimbabwe, Lupane will be humbled to see a delegation going to COP30 in November. And this will only speak to our efforts and our engagement. And I think this is an open door for now, so that we can also come on board and see what we can do together. So, Dr. Carlos, thank you so much for your time. The last point of action during this engagement, we have had a number of participants online as well, hybrid. As our promise, Dr. Carlos, may we confirm, is indeed all the participants from this workshop are going to have their certificate of participation, and also we are urging them to continue with us in this kind of engagement. So over to you, Dr. Carlos, for 2 minutes.
Okay. Many thanks, Meg, for your wonderful presentation. Of course, the attendance certificate is available to everyone that joined our activity this day. I would like, I don't know, Raul, if you are listening to us. Raul, can you hear us? Can you tell me if you are present, please, in the room? Raul Rojas, are you at the room? Bueno, okay. Okay. Muchas gracias. Thanks very much, Meg. I just wanted to say hello to Raul Rojas, who is the manager, the general manager of our Radio Clima Internacional, because, you know, this workshop is being followed in this moment for 42 countries from the 5 continents, and you know, we have receiving WhatsApp and questions, and many congratulations to you for the important effort to organize this Zimbabwe international workshop. So I say many thanks. We continue this month of action tomorrow with the month of action for Sierra Leone at 8 o'clock Argentinian time, 11 o'clock Sierra Leone time, and then we go to South Africa at 10 o'clock Argentinian time, 3 p.m. South African time. And we close the African week with Uganda next Friday, 28th, with Reverend Godfrey, who also is preparing a very good international workshop. So I give you the final word, my dear Meg Sibanda. Are you happy with the deliberation? Do you think that for when you gather and you see people there, are they happy? They have been a good reception of this information, and the people have understood that we are talking to the people. We are not talking to institutions. Institutions have a much more important role, but here we need to talk to the people who can manage their life and their quality of life just using a thermometer and be aware of the impact of extreme heat and prepare for the future applying the rule 330-300. You think that has been okay, the meeting of the workshop? What did you think, my dear friend Meg?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Dr. Carlos. I think everyone should be happy. Of course, I don't know how they express their happiness, but I think everyone is happy in the room. And we are just humbled and looking forward for the next steps. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to getting us on board, especially in the global arena in terms of our engagement. So we really salute you and appreciate your keenness of seeing Zimbabwe also featuring into this global month of action. I'm sure we are having great ambassadors here with us, and all of us here, I think we are crowned to take this baton. And in Zimbabwe, each family has got a minimum of 5 or 6 people. So looking at the house which is here, I think we are oversubscribed in terms of representation. Like I said, in Zimbabwe, we've got a minimum of 5 or 6 people in a household. So Dr. Carlos, this workshop really is going to go a wider reach in terms of cascading this wonderful, insightful information. So thank you so much.
Thanks to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carlos.
I clap you by your enormous effort. Many thanks, dear Mek. Sivanda, you have done a wonderful work. I hope that you help us as Director for International Relations and Partnership of this month of action. And certainly we meet soon with many of you in Brazil, Belém, in November of this year, 2025. We return with the normal program activities for Radio Clima Internacional. So, Raúl, muchas gracias a ti y volvemos al programa natural de Radio Clima Internacional. Good morning, many thanks to all of you, and particularly for Africa and Zimbabwe and our friend Mexibanda. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Bye. Great. Thank you.
Sordo.